afternoon, everyone. My name is Lynn McEntee, and I'm your moderator today for the Afro-Caribbean Cultural Festival. And we're connecting with Moksha Canada Foundation to put on this festival today. It's our second virtual one, and we're just excited to really host these guests today. And we're so very, very fortunate to be a part of it, because Moksha Canada is about engaging, connecting, and empowering our communities. A little bit more about the Afro-Caribbean Cultural Festival. I'm just going to read a little bit about the mantra and why we're here today. It's a step towards the elimination of discrimination, racism, and prejudice, with a priority for those targeted against Indigenous peoples and racialized women and girls. It is festivals and events like these that are beneficial in promoting community support. Moksha Canada has a long-standing reputation for providing safe, family-oriented entertainment and inclusive community events. Please follow Afro-Caribbean Cultural Festival, Afro-Caribbean and mokshacanada.com on social media to get more information. It is panel one today. It's our first discussion. We're kickstarting the festival. We had a culture clash a couple of weeks ago, and really it's sort of a month-long engagement for the Afro-Caribbean Cultural Festival. So we're very lucky today to have two amazing guests. And we have Anatole Frank, and I'll just briefly introduce Anatole at the moment, and Lonnie Frank, who is here to talk with us and just take us on a journey of conversation in our communities. I'm just going to read a little bit of bio, please and thank you, just about our guests, and then we can pick up the conversation. So Anatole Frank is goes by DJ Vincy Prince, hailing from the GTA. He has been honing his artistry over the last 10 years and has proven himself to be an extremely versatile, reliable, and talented DJ. He started perfecting himself by playing in his basement and has grown to be widely called upon name amongst his peers and fellow craftsmen. He is capable of playing all types of genres, from amazing soca, set to rock and roll, and will cater to any type of client, young and old. And I love the one-line bio, live for today. Absolutely, yeah, that's awesome. And I'll just introduce actually Lonnie so we can engage you both in the conversation, please and thanks. Lonnie Frank is a child and youth care practitioner from George Brown College. And she's, let's see, we also have you down at Sheridan College too.
Oh.
Yes, okay, thank you very much. Thank you, I appreciate that. She has a passion for working with young people, their families and communities, using anti-oppressive and trauma-informed lens. Lonnie has recently completed the Masters of Child and Youth Care program at Ryerson University and hopes to be part of the transformative change for today's youth in this shifting world. And Lonnie's one-line bio is child and youth care practitioner. We are fortunate enough to also have Sunil Channon, who's the founder and president of Moksha Canada Foundation. And he's with us today to lift us up and empower us and get this conversation started. So again, my name is Lynn McEntee. I'm your moderator. And I'd like to introduce Anatole, please. Anatole, I issued you a question. We can just kind of go from there. Our topic today is racism and discrimination. But the question I posed to you was, as an artist, what do you feel is important to you as a professional addressing racism and discrimination and keeping the conversation open for forward thinking, in particular for our youth and making change for today and tomorrow?
Okay, well, first of all, I want to thank you for having me here and Moksha Canada. It's a pleasure, and it's always fun to do these kind of things, and I want to impart some knowledge. The first thing that I feel we should be doing, especially as artists, is being versatile. For me, I like the ability to play multiple genres. I like to be able to cater to different crowds. I like the ability to play music, mix a rock song with a hip-hop song. Being able to have that fluidity, you're able to interact with more people. That way you include more people and you get more people to come together, right? It's not just one group and you're keeping everything separated. You're bringing everybody together, right? That way it allows for more conversation, because some people do not get those interactions. Some people start to get certain interactions, but they don't really get it. I want to be able to pull together youth, pull together adults, and be able to have certain conversations, right? I want there to be something different for people to hear, and when they hear that the different music's coming together, They're like, oh my god, I never realized that. Then different time periods as well, right? They have different songs from different time periods, and as soon as you start pulling all these songs and different things together, people actually start to think, right? And then different songs as well have different meanings because of throughout the different time periods. Every song was an evolution for what was going on in those time periods. So by doing all that, it brings different people together. I've influenced a couple of DJs to actually start DJing from young,
Oh, wow.
right?
Yeah.
So because they liked the different mixes, they see everything, and everybody usually thinks it's just scratching. It's not all that. It's you learn the history of the music, right? People hear and always want to become hip hop artists nowadays, right? It's not just being a hip hop artist, right? Know where certain samples came from. Know what happened in those time periods. Once you know what happened in those time periods, you're able to actually have a proper conversation and understand what happened and how we can move forward. If you don't know your history, you won't be able to. It'll always just repeat itself, right? So if I'm trying to think of the right way to say this. If you take the time to read, know the history, have simple conversations. Just know to have simple conversations. If you're confused, if you're if something happens and you feel away, it's always good to talk, learn, and work together, right? So that's really my thought process on a lot of these things.
Would you then say that begins, because I guess defining what the topic is, it's interesting you're talking about opening up the experience to many people. And I love that. I love that you said that because yes, we have labels that we're talking about, and that we have the label of our discussion today is racism and discrimination. Those labels, there's so many sub things from that. That's a label. And if you were to go with one direction, what you're talking, the opposite of what you're talking about, then that would be a road that, someone might go down because they're limited. They're defined within that box. They're defined within that scope, that lack of experience or lack of knowledge. And you're saying, open it up to everyone and anyone, and
Everybody.
just kind of let it happen and evolve, but with respect to the history of where we have arrived to today. That's very, very nice. Wow. Um, so do you mind if I keep going? And
Yeah,
I love what
yeah,
you had said. And so that to me ties into education, I guess, and it starts very young.
yeah.
So where do we get these labels then from? Where do those, where does that forethought come from, right? As we're talking about that today. And my background's education as well. And the arts, so very, very important for me. It's been my life commitment. So I would love to talk to both of you about that and open the door to where does that start then? These preconceived notions, is it learned behavior? Is it systematic? Is it, etc. Yeah. And go for it.
I honestly find it's a bit of both, right? For me, what I think a lot of it starts from home. It starts from simple home learning. It's all generational. So what your grandparents taught your parents, their parents are going to teach you, right? And a lot of it, if you've looked back, a lot of it starts just simply generational. Then on top of all that, what amplifies it is the system as well, right? The system that is set against. I wouldn't say us specifically as Afro-Caribbean people. It's set against different. It's set against different people, meaning different races. It's set against different genders. It's just never built for everybody. It's not a system that's built for everybody. depending on what the situation is, it's built against you or it's built for you, right? So there's two contributing factors to what's going on. For me as an artist, right, and for me as an Afro-Caribbean artist, I have to be that much more. What I mean that much more is I have to DJ better than the next person. I have to, when I come here, I have to be more professional than the next person. I have to be on time. They're expecting, there's certain expectations of different communities, right? That brings out the stereotypes as well. So for me, you have to be just that much more than the other person, right? And unfortunately, that's what it is, right? And that's the way the society is. You go to a corner store, you have to be that much more aware of your surroundings, right? There's always there you always see somebody, right? But you're just going in there for a drink, right? But then there'd be two aisles, one of one race, one of the next race, and you see which aisle they go down, right? And one is doing something right, one is doing something wrong, but you'll see which aisle they go down, and that's unfortunate, right? And that is something that's from home. That is something that's within the system. That's just something that in society we live with, but it is not right, right? So all I could do, and all anybody can really do, is just do the right thing. Simple. I don't sit there and try to do the absolute everything and go over the top. All I do is the right thing, and that's it. The more people who just sit there and do the right thing, the more we get rid of certain stereotypes. Instead of, if be a human being, a simple human being, that is it. We are born, half of us look the same. When we die, we're all going to the same place, and when everything's all said and done, we're all going to be the same. Our bones all look the same. You know what I mean? So all you got to do is, when you're alive, be a decent human being to somebody else, right? Do the right thing. Be honest, right? Be forthcoming. Just be a decent human being. That's all anybody can really ask for. So between the stereotypes and the way the system is and the way the families and everybody's grown up, it's not needed. Just be a decent human being. That's simply as all anybody can really do.
Yeah, and that speaks to the family aspect of things, that nucleus, that and your extended families, and how important that is to really start that from birth. It should be a natural process. Unfortunately, sometimes we need to impart that knowledge if it's not within a family unit. There are other ways to kind of go about it. There are some children who may not be exposed to that school of thought, and how do we get around that in terms of penetrating the system, so to speak, and penetrating that thought, so to break that cycle. For them to step outside that box, because maybe there's no choice for them in that matter. They're living in an environment like that. So I wondered if that's really cool. If you don't mind, if I have Lonnie jump in now, because also you're working with child and youth, and we'll just open up the conversation to all of us here. Lonnie, any thoughts around that, and adding into what Anatole had said regarding do the right thing? That is your moral compass, right?
Yes, well, I want to start also by thanking you guys for having me here. It is a pleasure. Where to jump in? There are so many things that he said that I agree with. And when he was talking about versatility right at the start, I was like, absolutely. The place where it gets tricky I think in doing the right thing is what does that mean? Right? Because what's right for you might be right for another person, but then completely wrong for me. So it's a matter for me about getting on the same page. And I feel like the world is so big, and if we're going to do, what's the word? Not a simile. What's the opposite of a simile?
Oh,
Or
yeah.
Metaphor, that's the word. Sorry, so sleepyhead. A metaphor. The world is like a big book, right? Lots of different chapters, and the chapters represent different people from all over the world. And chapters are great. You know, everyone has their own story to tell. And what comes with your own story is your own truth. And I think where the world is having a tough time is accepting that that is what it is. My truth is different than your truth. And how do we come to an understanding, or how do we learn to respect people and what their truths are? So again, doing the right thing. If you were born in into a particular family, into a particular culture, in a particular climate, country, what's true for you might be very oppressive and damaging to another person. And right, and my area of research and study is around the oppression of young people. It's called childism. And as children, we don't really get a say of what family we're born into, what schools we go into, what country we're born into. We don't even get to choose our own names, right? And so all we can do is take in what we're given. And then we are sent into school, and that's around age 3, age 4. And that means you have 3 or 4 years of exposure to things that you believe were right. And then you come into the school setting, and then you have other people from other chapters of books telling you, well, this is how I do it. And so I think with most things, early intervention is so important to start young. And we get to like junior kindergarten young, and we come into the school setting, and we open up dialogue, and both of you guys were talking about the importance of communication and what it means to have a conversation and provide ideological safety in the space where I get to come and tell you my part of the story and what's true for me, and then another person gets to come and tell you their story and what's true for them. And then as we start to grow, we have a responsibility to start to question these things. Well, I was taught this, that, and the other. And my friend over here who is going to school with me, and I'm living and learning and growing with them, is telling me something totally different. And then we have to start to ask ourselves, well, what does this mean? Right? Especially when it has to do with your truth is oppressive to me, or your truth is hurtful to me. Then as we grow, we have the responsibility to, again, explore what that means, and then unlearn all of the things that we learned and had no choice, right? Again, as children, we can't choose what family we go into, but as we age, we have the responsibility of asking more questions, looking at what we've been exposed to, and relearning, right? So unlearning things that don't make sense anymore. So, Anatole talked a lot about home training, what your parents and your grandparents and your great parents learned, and what was, extended through the generations. We don't have to carry things on, especially if they no longer make sense and they no longer fit. So I think it's really important that in school, we have educators who are open to having the conversations and are equipped to facilitate the conversations in ways that are not, again, oppressive and not squashing people, right? Because children they're so brilliant, right? And it's so simple sometimes for them. Don't hurt other people. Nobody's worth more than somebody else. My skin is white, your skin is brown, but it doesn't mean one is better than the other. And as long as we're having these conversations starting from young, where we're empowering young people to have these conversations and to feel confident in questioning things, right? We also don't let young people question things. It's do as I say, not as I do. Don't ask why, it's in the curriculum. But I think we need to shake the system a little bit and say, no, what are you thinking? Let's hear it. What are you thinking? Let's hear it. And now we have a whole bunch of thoughts on the table, and what are we going to do with them? And I think the classroom is an amazing opportunity for that to happen.
So Sunil has a question.
Hi, Lori. Thanks to hear your thoughts. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I just have a question regarding this. Why you think this thing is happening like everywhere? Instead of people talking and asking and involving, they're blaming each other. Oh, this I'm better, you're bad, whatever, those kind of things. Why there's anger in people? Doesn't matter whatever the background. We all, one.
Mm-hmm.
But why? What is the reason, the cause? And I know a lot of people talking on their panel discussions and everywhere like us, right? But what is the solution you think? Sorry, I'm just
No, it's a great loaded question. So I think we are born, I think people for the very most part we're born good, right? We're born wanting love and showing love. I think what we learn is we learn hate. We're also born with innate tendencies to heal ourselves. So simple things that we don't really take, that we do take for granted, actually. Things like crying and shaking and sweating and anger that you talked about, which is not to be confused with violence, right? Anger is an emotion, and we don't learn to be angry. It just comes innately. And if people are allowed to do these healing properties, patterns don't get stuck on people. It's when we don't get to heal ourselves is where patterns start to form and beliefs start to be imprinted on who we are. And these are the things that inform our narrative and the way that we engage with other people. If we saw something, as if children, this is why I love working with children, if children see something that's not right, if children see someone getting hurt, they want to speak out. No, that's not right. If a young person falls down and scrapes their knee, they're going to cry. But then as we grow, we start to get messages that these innate healing properties are not good. Girls shouldn't cry. Don't be a good big boy, be a big boy. Girls cry because they're weak, so crying is a bad thing. Anger is scary. You can't be a big black guy and get angry, because then there's all the fear that goes with that. So all these ways that we should be able to heal ourselves, we don't. So if you ask me what's the solution is reconnecting with our most innate healing properties. When you look at the different communities, I think of like the Indigenous communities. Things were done to Indigenous people that legitimately angers them, right? We're talking about taking away our land, taking away our children, and those are just the bare minimums. That would make anybody angry. And we're saying to them, don't get angry. Don't, I just want to have a conversation. I'm angry. I deserve to have my anger. We saw this last year with the BLM riots, right? What we're seeing is angry Black people, not the stereotype, but legitimately, our bodies are being policed and are being murdered. We have a reason to be angry. What people are getting confused is with violence, right? We just want to have a conversation and show you that we're angry without you being afraid that we're going to hurt you or aggress against you. So to answer the question, I think it's being able to create spaces where people can have the feelings. I think we're a society that's really afraid of having feelings, right? I don't want to show my sadness. I don't want to show my anger. I don't want to show my confusion. I don't want to show my mistrust because of the way how that gets, how people perceive us, right? You're weak, you're strong, you need to be feared. I think we need to get to a place where people are like, I'm having a really hard time. I'm here with you. Let's have this hard time together, right? We talk a lot about coming together and, being versatile with our music, bringing people together. We have to, when we do get together, we need to make space for people so that they can release the things that are inside of them, right? And I think when it comes to things like racism, it's so touchy because we don't talk about it early enough. It's not normalize. That's the other thing that needed to be done in our schools. We need to normalize talking about race. You know, your skin is beige, my skin is brown, I am black, you are white. So that when we're older, these aren't, you know, scary words and scary conversations. And then people are like, oh, I don't want to talk because I don't want to offend you and I don't want to get you mad. And then that's the feeling again. And so we have people not able to be authentic in conversations because they're afraid of how they're going to be perceived. So yeah, being able to authentically have our feelings without fear of judgment for other people so that we can come with our most authentic self and our most clear thinking, right? When we think about all of the isms, the sexism, the racism, the ableism, it's a matter of people not having clarity of thought. Because at the end of the day, people are people. Like Anatole said, we all have the same bones inside of us. So why, at what point do people think it would be okay to hurt, to harm, to mistreat, to kill another person? That to me sounds like you're not thinking clearly. And so you made a poor decision, right? And thinking and making decisions and the ways you choose to engage with people has a lot to do with clarity of mind. You get clarity of mind by removing all of the different feelings. You can't make a good decision when you are highly emotional. I don't know if that answers the question.
To add something to that, the next thing that it's emotional, but the next thing that I've realized is comfort. Once you break the norm, once you get out of the box, right, and you're open yourself, it's scary because you have to relearn everything that you knew.
Right.
Everything that gets passed down through the years and gets taught to you. You know this is it, this is the box you've built, this is the box that's made you comfortable. Anything else, anybody trying to get in and change these different, change your thoughts, right, and change what you've learned, it's scary.
The scary is an emotion. The scary is an emotion, right? So what's great about having fear is that you can release fear and you can release it in different ways, but you have to feel safe, or you have to be in an environment where people are like, okay, if you're scared, I'm going to create space for you to have that fear. And I need to be able to create that space for you, because if you don't release that fear, then you are going to have the fear and it is going to impact all of your decisions. We will never get rid of racism if people are too afraid, right? I can almost guarantee when we talk about where these challenges come in, there is a feeling that is associated with it, which is why I'm saying we need to be able to have our feelings without fear of judgment, without fear of criticism. Embarrassment is so crippling. Shame is so crippling, and people would rather, as you said, be comfortable and shut those things down. And that's why we are where we are, because people are afraid to move forward and have the feelings and have the feelings of discomfort, have the feelings of embarrassment, have the feelings of shame, have the feelings of anger. So until we get to a place where we can release those or discharge them, we will always be where we are, which is not, it's not great right now. It's a scary place to be right now, but it's not hopeless. And that's what's important to me. And this is what I share with my students, is that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And if we don't hold on to the idea that the light is there, no one will go down the tunnel, because as you said, people will be afraid. So we need to go to the parts inside of us. So this is individual work that comes first before we can even think about being together. I didn't mean to interrupt you, brother.
That's amazing. Anatole, thank you. Yeah. So would you then both say that this is in many ways, if it's not being addressed, if it's not getting out for anybody on both sides of the spectrum in terms of sharing that conversation, would it be a passive type of racism then? Because they're not able to, get out their anxiety, get out their, I don't understand this, or, there are different ways that people show, racism, whether it be in the institution or if it's in, if it's individually. Do you have a moment to speak about that, both of you, in terms of your thoughts? Yeah.
Oh, It makes me think back to my own childhood and being in school, and what someone was to ask me what was my experience of racism. I live in Peel, and I went to Dufferin Peel, the separate board, and I would say to them, I didn't experience it. I had a great time in school. The teachers were all nice to me. And so, no, I didn't experience racism. And it wasn't until college, university, where I had a deeper understanding of microaggressions, hidden racism. And then I start to look back at my experience, and I was like, oh, that's what that is. And so what often happens is that people, and Anatole, you spoke about doing the right thing. And a lot of people think doing the right thing is just being nice, be nice. And unfortunately, you can be nice and racist at the very same time. And then it puts people in a very difficult position, because in order for me to call it out, or as I like to say, call people into a conversation, you know, it's almost blindsiding, because I was trying to do the right thing. I was trying to be nice, but in your being nice, you were doing X, Y, and Z. So we have to get to a place where, again, what comes up for people? It's the embarrassment, the confusion. I was just trying to be nice. And I think I lost track of the question there, but
no, that's good.
People need to get to a place. And I think I want to go back to something you also said, where the work has to be done by both people, like all people, right? It's individual work, right? We can't just depend on white people to eradicate racism. If that was the case, it would have happened it wouldn't have happened to begin with, and it would have happened a long time ago. But there are places where even we are complicit in racism, right? Most of the time, because we don't even notice that it's happening. But then when I think back, I didn't see myself reflected in the books that we read. I didn't see myself reflected in the educators that came into my classroom. I certainly didn't have a racialized administrator. I never had a racialized administrator in my K to 12 years. I think maybe one vice principal was a Black woman in high school. And I didn't have a racialized teacher until my second year of college. And so again, getting in there and representation, and then the conversations I have with my young people are using books. I love books. And books are so simple, right, at the surface level, but they always have a deeper meaning. So I give my young people tools, and oftentimes tools are just terms: alike, different. Alike and different don't have values. It just means they are the same. These are not the same. Not one is better, not one is worse, just different. And then we go in and we look at the books, and then we have the students start to ask these questions. Well, where are the Black people? Where are the brown people? Where are the Asian people? Or if the brown, Black, and Asian people are in the stories, how are they being portrayed? What is the value that's been ascribed to them? And who gave them that value? And are we okay with that? And the younger the children are, they're like, no, that's not nice. We shouldn't make fun of, we shouldn't treat them badly. So I deviated from your question a little bit, but.
You know what, and I see Anatole shaking his head, and before Anatole jumps in, I just wanted to jump in there. I had an experience when I was taking on a new classroom, and all of the materials were all white materials, if you will, and books and dolls and things like that. And that was the first thing, we did a flush of the classroom, I guess, so to speak, and just, because it was very noticeable. And that was just, again, it was at a time period where people, I guess, were not educating themselves on, the lack of, or what was missing, or the lack of completion. So yeah, it really spoke to me, and that it was the children in the end that noticed the diversity of the classroom, which was beautiful really to see, because it does start very, very young. And when it does unfold, when you get an opportunity, when you're providing the materials, even language and writing, and that might, Anatole, when you jump in terms of artistry, I'd love to raise a conversation just around writing materials. How do you describe a Black child, the beauty of their skin, and, what descriptions are you using? Being very, very mindful of terminology, for example, so that's very, very important.
And being careful too there, because I'm noticing, and you can jump in where you will, that when we're using words to describe racialized bodies, it's often food.
I just had that today, actually, a conversation with the writer, actually, before we started.
Yes. And I'm thinking at the surface level, people think it's okay. Chocolate is great. People love coffee. People love, toffee and all sorts of things. But then when you look at it the other way, or non-racialized bodies, there's no food descriptors. It's things like, maybe you'll get peachy once in a while, but otherwise it's like things like ivory. And I can't even think of another one because descriptive words don't often, we don't use descriptive words to talk about white bodies or white skin. And so I think using food is highly problematic. And then people need to be mindful when they're doing that. And I just did a presentation with some young folks on a story that described a young boy and his Black skin as being chocolate. And so the question around chocolate was, why do we use chocolate? What's the story here? Well, I like chocolate. Well, chocolate is brown and chocolate is sweet. And it's like, that's fine. But if you also think about it, the chocolate is addictive, right? Chocolate can be bad. And chocolate is also fantasized and lust over, right? So when you think about the history of certain words, the way chocolate is sourced, is bad, for lack of better words. So when we use these words and we think we're doing the right thing because, children know vanilla, children know chocolate, but there's a deeper history, right? So when we talk about learning and knowing and doing the work, and Anatole was talking about knowing history, that's really important because, again, at the surface level, we think we're doing the right thing. But the problem is, if little boys and girls think Black people are chocolate, and I kid you not, I had an experience going into a daycare room and children wanting to lick me because they thought I was chocolate. So it's problematic. I don't want you to eat me. I don't want you to lust over me. I want you to know that my skin is similar to your skin and that it's the outside of our body. It keeps us, it has a job to do. It's just a different color. And then there's that term again, different doesn't mean better or worse. It just means my skin is a different color than yours. And if we stick with the basics, just different, or my skin and your skin are different, my skin and my brother's skin are alike, I think we can be okay. It's when we start to say, your skin is brown like dirt is bad, that's when we get into trouble, right? What can you do with chocolate too? It was like, if you don't like chocolate, you would throw it away. You would never throw away a person. If you didn't like chocolate, you could throw chocolate on the floor and stomp on it. You couldn't do that to a person. And these are the conversations we're not having because, well, chocolate is sweet and children understand chocolate, so let's use it. But we need to be mindful when we're doing things like that.
I'm so glad that you raised that. Even just the terminology, go wash your hands, they're Black. I remember hearing that and over and over, and now I don't hear it as much as people saying that people are becoming more aware, fortunately. But that was just used to drive me bananas, I guess, so to speak. It just when people would just freely use that, or just all the things, all of the above of what you're talking about, and just where do we need to draw the line, and it starts very, very young, and it starts in our classrooms. And Anatole, do you have a moment to jump in to bridge into this part of the conversation in terms of terminology or how we present things, and even in terms of work that we do as artists? What do we want to put out there as artists, and how important is that to keep your material current? Yes.
So what I've noticed, right, and this is just everyday life, it's just mainstream, racism is more mainstream to the point where it makes a lot of people numb, right? Because you don't notice it because it's everywhere. If you look on TV, you look on the news, every night they have certain people and they portray certain people a certain way. You have a black shooter, he is this, he's that, this is right, and they'll have the worst photo. If you have a white shooter who will shoot up a church, for instance, right? He was a good person in this community, right? Simple. Now let's go for kids, for the youth, right? What shows that are mainstream, right? That they have it's actually now that they're starting to make more shows that are different races, right? And they're now expanding kids to different races. Now you have Dora the Explorer. You have I can't remember.
Doc McStuffins. Rhea, lots of different racialized.
Compared to before, where there wasn't that representation, right? Now you have kids more in their teens. What shows are really there that are showing certain people in a brighter light, right? It's simple things that you don't notice, but it's every day. There's just something. It could be the simplest thing, right? A simple. You're walking down the street. Somebody walks to the other side of the street, right? Because of just they're not thinking. They're not thinking that you're going to do something. It's just something in their mind, right? Makes them say, no, I'm going to the other end of the street. Because just by seeing you're walking, they're like, yeah, I'm gonna hold my purse a little closer and walk a little further away. You're noticing it now. A lot of people are doing that with coronavirus going on too. So that's just amplifying everything as well, right? So
they go wide on the street, kind of, go wide and over. I see what you're saying. Yeah, I know for sure. I've seen that with, when I have seen that actually.
Right,
and witnessed that. So no, that's a really good point, and that's that conditioning in our society. And where do you penetrate that thought? And I believe, and I don't know, I think others believe here, it starts very, very young. I think it starts from birth. I think it truly does. It has to start somewhere, and keeping that component that it's the human race, right? Right? We are one people and one race, one human race, sort of always at the core of what we do and navigate. But it is there in our society, and as all you're talking about media images for sure, very much so, negative connotations, passive aggressiveness, all of those things needing to come to the forefront in our conversation. Sunil, did you want to jump in with a question for one of our panelists today?
Yeah, sorry, it is for everybody, whoever is, all of you guys. The first thing is, a lot of people don't understand the difference between the racism and discrimination. That's the first thing. And this is my thoughts, this is what, because I talk to a lot of people in different occasions, different, panel discussions, or, I have all kinds of friends. I don't talk about, with them, they're good friends. It doesn't matter if they are. That's why even if you go on Muksha Canada website, you can see everyone and everyone is welcome. Anyone and everyone. Simple. That's it. We are not talking about anybody, everybody. That's the first thing. And second thing, I believe it starts from your home, because every culture, they have a racism in between their own culture. Every culture, I believe. Doesn't matter who you are. How to fix those things? Like everybody talk about it, but my thing is, you can keep talking, but there's no action there. But some people, they try to take actions, but it goes in the wrong way or whatever. Every time people try to do something good, other people think, whoever, they think, what's in it for me? Why I'm doing it now? I don't care. I'm rich, I'm poor, whatever, right? So if you're rich because of the people supporting, support each other, doesn't matter, learn about each other. That's what the main focus should be. And mind your own business. If somebody needs help, if you can help them, whoever they are. That's what I believe. This is my question. Like a lot of people, they have a lack of information, lack of knowledge. They talk about racist, but they should know what is the meaning of racist, like which way you're talking to the person, like which way you're talking. And you have to understand racism and discrimination, the difference between these two things. It's not a small thing, it's a big thing. And I believe it always starts from your own home. These days, you see the parents and kids, they don't even talk. So the kids, whatever they learn outside, watching TV, media, social media, friends, good friends, bad friends, whatever, right? They don't have anybody to discuss about, because the more you have insight, the more you talk, the more you understand. If you don't talk with anybody, then it builds up anger, and then you start doing wrong things. For you, it's the right thing because this is what you feel like it, but for other people, it's a wrong thing. So if one part, like last couple of years, we're listening about Islamophobia, BLM, Black Lives Matter, and different, like whatever, Jewish, whatever, all the cultures. Why? This is my question: is why? It's a big why. Like if one person is bad in one community, it doesn't mean all community is bad. Simple. So this is my little bit ideas. So if you guys can make it more light, this talk, whatever I just say, it will be helpful for everybody who are going to watch us and listen to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Sunil. I appreciate that. So racism and discrimination are very different phenomenons. So yeah, Anatole, you were thinking of saying something?
It goes back to what I said earlier, fear, right? It is fear of change. It is fear of something new, something that is out of the norm, hopping out of the box that was built for you, right? And out of the box you've built yourself. When you hop out of the box and you try to learn something new, and you see that there's so much in this world to see, to learn, different languages, different cultures, right? If you open yourself to actually see what is going on, you will see, right, that not all black people are the same. If you keep yourself in the box and you have this one thought of black people and you said, this is what it is. So when you see one black person do it, everybody's the same. You put the paint on everybody, right? For white people, when white people say certain things, right? All white people are racist, right? All Asians are this. All Muslim people are terrorists, right? Once you start painting everybody with the same brush, right? Nothing will change. Nothing will change. But when you sit there and you open up and you realize and you have conversations with different people, you will see the fact of everybody's different. Not everybody has the same ideal. Not everybody is the same. You are not going to agree with everybody. You're not going to agree with everything everybody has to say. You are allowed to have your own opinion. You're allowed to feel the way you do, right? But have the conversation. Be able to say, you know what? We can agree to disagree and still be respectful with each other, right? We can agree to disagree. We don't have to agree on everything. I like chocolate milk. You may not like chocolate milk. But does that mean we have to fight now? Or we can't be friends because you do not like chocolate milk? No. You're allowed to not like chocolate milk. You're allowed to have your own feelings. You're allowed to have your own thought process, right? But let's have a conversation and see why you feel the way you do. Nobody wants to have that conversation. Nobody wants to communicate, because communication and opening yourself to learn and opening yourself to something new, right? It's like going out and trying new food, a new restaurant, right? When you leave your house, it's like trying it, right? You may not like it, but you tried it. You try to learn something new. You try to go to, as a Korean person, I go to a Greek restaurant. I'll go to a Japanese restaurant. I'll try the different foods. I know some of the different. You learn different things. You try it, right? You may not like it. You may not like everything because you're not catching me eat raw fish. But if you're talking about dynamite rolls, you got me. You know what I mean? But I tried. I wanted to try. I didn't have it before. I wasn't raised on it. But I went out, I tried it, and shoot, I like it. Right? It's a matter of exposing yourself and being to. Lonnie, you continue. Because she it's gonna be along the same lines.
Yeah, so I have two lines of thoughts. The buzzword nowadays is AOP, everything anti-oppressive practice. And I like the idea. My problem, or where I find problem that can be problematic, is what does that mean? Right? Anti-oppressive practice cannot just be one blanket thing that we do and we apply it to everyone, because as we've been saying, everyone is different, right? How Black people experience oppression, how Jewish people experience oppression, how the 2S LGBTQ community experiences oppression is different. So if we go in with this blanket approach, we're going to do more harm, because what I need is not what they need, and if they need something and it's not what I need and you give it to me, we're doing a disservice. We're not meeting people's needs. So we have to do, again, more learning, more understanding about the history of how certain groups have experienced oppression. Right? I don't want you to look at me and think, I'm not smart. As a Black woman, I'm loud and I'm ghetto. So please don't treat me in these ways. A Jewish person doesn't have those needs necessarily, right? So if you're going to be anti-oppressive, okay, I'm going to make sure that I talk to her and that I don't make any allusions to her being loud, ghetto, not smart, whatever the case is. And if you do that to a Jewish person, it won't fit. You've missed the mark here. So again, we need to go out and learn about people and the ways that they have experienced oppression so that we can meet their needs appropriately. The second thing I was thinking about has to do with capitalism. I blame everything on capitalism. You're talking about why people, children and parents don't even talk anymore because the child is on a device or some kind of screen. And again, why does that child have that screen? Well, they've been told that you need to, and you need to have the new latest gadget, and you have to, and if you can't afford it, well, then there's something wrong with you because everybody has the new and latest gadget. And so then I'm thinking now about back in the day, or back home, wherever back home is for people, we had this idea of collectivity. We were a collective society where, back in the day, there was no screens. It was, I live in a house with my mom and my grandma and my auntie and my uncle. And if I'm having a hard time, one of them is going to be available for me, likely in the next room. I can go over, I can talk to them. I know everyone in my community. If I'm having a hard time and somebody in my household or no one in my household is available to me, I can walk down the street, I can knock on my neighbor's home, and I can go in and have a conversation with them. Here in North America, very Western, very individualistic, in that we are all in our own little boxes, sometimes very literally in our apartments, in our houses. How many of us know who our neighbors are? How many of us can go over to our neighbor and say, hey, I'm having a really hard time. Sure, no problem, come on in, I'll put the tea on and we can have a conversation. We don't do that anymore. We close it off. You buy your TV. Everyone in the house has their own TV. So nobody needs to come together in the family room and sit down and, hey, how was your day, mom? How was your day, son? We're not doing that anymore. So people are so divided. And so we're missing out on everyone's lives. And mental health is steadily increasing because, again, people are having feelings and they're stuck with them. instead of being able to have someone that they can talk to. Never mind, you know, the system is packed up and there's waiting lines, so I can't even go and find a professional to talk to without having being put on a 6-month waiting list. So we've missed, or we've lost, this idea of collectivity and coming together and having conversations. You know, it would be easy. Wouldn't it be nice if we were living in a world where, the second half, but we're walking down the street, a Black person's walking down the street, a non-racialized person sees the Black person, has whatever thoughts, makes the decision to cross the street. Well, wouldn't it be nice if A, that didn't happen, or I can come over and say, hey, I noticed you crossed the street. I was wondering what was going on for you. And that would stop someone in their track, right? But again, it's this whole, I'm not here to hurt you. I'm just wondering what's going on for you. And then they would be forced to think about what's going on for them. And then they get to explore that, you know. There was fear there, but what were you afraid of? And then just engaging in conversations again without fear of, you know, I'm not attacking you. I'm just curious as to what it is that you're thinking about, right? And if everyone comes in just curious, I'm just curious to know what's going on. I'm just curious to know why you drink milk and why you eat raw fish and why you do this and why you do that. And if everyone can come to this place where, I can see that my screen is frozen. Everyone can come to a place where we're curious about other people. I think that's ideal. But right now, again, as Anatole said, fear gets in the way. So racism, I think, to answer the initial question, racism has to do with history, it has to do with powers, it has to do with institution, right? So, and discrimination, anybody can be discriminative, right? So if I don't have the power to be racist to other people, right? Just in terms of the way history has unfolded, I don't have the power to be racist to non-racialized or white people. White people seem to think that, you know, if a Black person mistreats them, that's racism. You're treating me this way because of my race. Well, no, that's not the case. We don't have the power, and historically that it doesn't work that way. But what we are doing is being, we do have the power to be discriminative, right? And that's what happens between, you need to stop interrupting me because I'm having a conversation. And that's how white people can be discriminative towards each other. There's no racism there, not necessarily, but it is discrimination when you're treating people badly. When I think about an episode or an experience rather at my workplace where I'm the only Black person, one of 2 Black people in my school. And we were out on recess and I'm working with a little boy, and a white teacher decides to send my boy into the office. And she didn't tell me, and she went behind my back. She could see that I was looking for him. And so I said to my principal, I said, it's racism because you overlooked, you overstepped, you didn't engage with me, you treated me badly. Historically, that's what racism is, when white people mistreat or treat Black people poorly. And then my principal said to me, well, she would have done that to anyone. And I'm like, well, the difference is I'm Black. And when she does it to me, that's racism. When she does it to another person, that's discrimination. And so it took him a moment to like put the pieces together. But racism has to do with, again, powers, who has the power, institutions, who makes the decisions, and the last piece there. But at any rate, it made sense for him, right? It's like, oh, that's what makes it different for you. I can experience poverty, a white person can experience poverty, but it's not your whiteness that has to do with your experiencing poverty. My Blackness has something to do with my experiencing poverty. It's difficult for me to get a job. It's difficult for me to get because of racism. It's difficult for me to buy a house or get a loan to buy a house, or to, I show up to a rental office and they see my face and they're like, no, there's no vacancy here. But my poverty is directly linked to my race, whereas a white person, their race has nothing to do with their troubles or their difficulties in life. I feel like I'm rambling now.
No, that's amazing. Actually, if you all have a thought on just in terms of accessibility and services, then so that's somewhat what we're talking about, and accessibility, and for some, and not accessible for others. Even just, for example, the healthcare system. Is that something we could have a conversation about in terms of your thoughts?
I just want to ask something from Loni. Loni, you're talking about the white and the black, but what I see in my experience, plus a lot of people when they talk to me about their experiences, what I feel like is not only black or white, it's about any culture, any background people, and especially we are in Canada, so we talk about Canada only. All kind of people are here, and every community have a good and bad, doesn't matter who they are, right? And the racism is not only black and white, racism is everywhere with every culture. Within their own people also. Plus, it's not about white people don't like black people. No, there are so many white people, or Caucasian, I will say. Those people, their best friends are like black people, or Muslims, or Jewish, or South Asians, or Asians. So there are, it's not only black and white. Yeah, past histories, whatever, we were not there. This is 2020, right? 2021, sorry. 2021, COVID-19.
Yes.
So we should learn from our past history. Mistakes, wrong, right. Why we take only wrong things from the past, but why we should take some good things from the back, from our family. Past means like our family and our, parents and older brothers, siblings, and whatever, right? We should take the good part from them, leave the bad part. We don't need the bad part. This is what, like, I'm just thinking, because racism is anywhere. Like South Asians go somewhere, some Afro-Caribbean community, they don't like them, because they're different community. No, first of all, we are all human. God made us. We didn't ask them, make me white, make me green, make me yellow, or whatever, right?
Right.
So color doesn't matter. Inside that matters. How you talk to the people, how you go with them, right?
Right.
That's
what I think color does matter. And when we're talking about race, it's especially if we're talking about Canada or North America, I think, okay, if we're not going to say white and black, then we're going to say racialized and non-racialized people, right? And racialized can mean anything. It can be indigenous, it can be black, it can be brown, and non-racialized people. What happens though is when racism happens, we're talking about colonialism, right? It was white people that came, right? And so white people did unto racialized people. And then that process happened for as long as it did. And then what happened is racialized people internalized it. And so now you don't have to do unto me, I'm doing unto myself and to my own people, right? So that's where you see black on black crimes. That's where you start to see in the caste systems and colorism, we're doing it to ourselves. It was done unto us, and now we're doing it unto each other. So that's very much alive and thriving in 2021 today, where we've learned to hate ourselves and learn to hate other people. And that's why it comes back to, because hate is a feeling, right? If we could just do the things that we needed to do when we were younger, we would be our most authentic and clear thinking selves. Hating somebody else is learned, and so it can be unlearned. The process, however, includes deep feeling of shame, right? There must be something inherently wrong with me such that I could do something to another person. That is a terrible feeling to sit with. And if you don't have the right people around you, you're never going to get that out. And that's where we are right now. Black people are tired, right? And this is where I have trouble and even in my own community. I am an advocate for compassion. Everything we do, we have to do with compassion. Well, I'm so tired. They've treated me badly in my family for generations and generations. And that's true. You get to be tired. Anatole said, you get to have your feelings. But if everyone isn't able to have their feelings, then we're going to be stuck in these habits or these thought patterns of, I'm just going to hate. And if you don't like me, then you can stay over there. You go to your house, you lock your door, you wind up your window, you cross the street, and we will forever be divided. We have to heal ourselves as a community of people. The various communities need to heal themselves. I have Jewish people who can't stand other Jewish people. That's internalized anti-Semitism. Black people, some of us are horrible to each other. Internalized racism. And just about any ism out there can be internalized. Women, we are, some of us are so bad to ourselves, and that's the internalized sexism. If we were able to heal ourselves, women would be able to look at each other, Black, white, wherever you are on the diversity wheel, we should be able to link hands and move each other forward. But we're so pitted against each other in this individualistic society that we can't see that diversity is our strength. We are too consumed with hating other people, right? Self-care, making sure self-care is important, but community care is equally, if not slightly more important. How do we move together as a society? How do we move together as a family unit? How do we move together as a community of people? And we haven't figured out how to do that because we're not okay with the expression of feelings. We take things personally. And I think that's hugely problematic.
Just add on. Somebody other day I was talking to some parents and some teachers also, as you're a teacher, so that's why I just thought I should ask you. What do you think about in the school system, in the universities everywhere, what we should like the government, they should be adding something about more seriously about the difference, that thing, like, okay, because a lot of students, they go to the counselors, they want to see what kind of counselor is that, where they're comfortable with. It should be go to anybody, it should be same thing, because they're doing their job to make sure the kids and youth, they're learning from that, guiding, that should be fixed. I think it should be start from down, not from top, because when you start from the top, you will never come to the down. All the people have to be like, going together, then the government say, okay, yeah, everybody's together, let's do something. We're talking, but we should, it's not going to be there. It start from us, start from our home. Should be something in the school system or institutions that there should be a like a one period or whatever. I'm just saying, this is my thinking, right? This is what when I talk to people, that it should be teaching them something like that, like difference and all the stuff. And you're right, but I'm just adding on some things that, because you're a teacher, so
we're just not there yet. We're not there yet. And and it's so funny that you say it, and I won't call anyone out specifically, but when I was writing my thesis, I suggested that change starts with individuals. And I was told that I might want to reconsider my thought process there. And I mean, as a student, I'm not going to fight with my profs, but I'm firm in my belief that change has to start on an individual level, right? Because if I want to be able, I would like to, and in a perfect world, in a perfect educational setting, I should be able to go to my counselor, and regardless of who you are, know that I'm going to get a standard level of service. But guidance counselors are individual people with individual thoughts, individual approaches, and that might not work for me. So what I think needs to happen is some kind of universal training. And I promise you, I'm trying to work on that. What might that training look like? But it's really hard work, so I haven't been able to finish it. But I feel like if we get to people individual people and we can change individual thinking, then we can start to say it's again striving towards the clear thinking mind that whenever I engage with any type of student, any diversity of student that comes through my door, I have clarity of mind, clarity of thinking. So whatever you come to me with, I am able to support you individually. And I support you individually, and I can support you individually. Doesn't matter who I am, but I have clarity of mind so I can engage with you, right? And that becomes me having a dialogue with you, getting to know your narratives, right? And it's not me thinking with bias in my brain, not me thinking with prejudice and me thinking with racism in my brain, not me thinking I'm better than you because I'm the counselor, I'm the teacher. It's I am the expert of my life. You are the expert of your life. How can we engage? How can we engage in something that whereby you get exactly what it is that you need, provided by me? And I don't think that training is available yet. I think we miss that piece, that individual piece, because we try to go into institutions and we tell things that we teach people things they already know. Be nice. We know to be nice. Put more, racialized people in your books. Make sure that your curriculum has more racialized. We know how to do that, but it has nothing to do with me and the way my instruction comes forward, right? I can read you a book from a racialized author, and if I don't believe what the author is saying, I could still read the book to you. And then we miss out on really important underlyings because of the way the person and their own individual biases come through when they engage with the children. So I'm still working on it. I'd love to stay connected. And so when I do finish the workshop and the training, I'd love to be able to disseminate it to as many people as possible. But I think there's a piece, and it's around compassion, that's missing from a lot of the work that we're trying to do.
Something Sunil said earlier. It starts from the bottom, then it goes up to the government. For me, I feel like we all should be meeting halfway in the middle. If you have the government working from their side to try and include everybody, and you have the individuals working their way up, we can all find a way to meet somewhere in the middle to try. And if 50% of the work is us, 50% of the work is the government, we have to be able to hold our government officials accountable. We have to be able to hold everybody accountable, and that's the thing that we're missing. We're not holding our government officials accountable. We're not holding each other accountable. We're not holding the police accountable for what is going on. We're grasping at straws, trying to fix a problem, but with no real plan in place, with nothing to try and help each other in place. There's exactly right. There's nothing. We're not all looking in the same direction. Some of us are looking straight. Some of us see a squirrel and we turn. You know what I mean? Then we have the government officials, right, that have sat there and decided to do what we should be doing as well, directing the narrative, right? They are sitting there, and people's fears that are in the back of their mind, they will say different things, so just in the slightest way, right? Look at what happened last year in the States. You think any other race, okay, could just run into what was the hall called? Right?
Capitol? Was it Capitol Hill?
The Capitol Hill. Do you think anybody else could have ran into Capitol Hill like that? You have a Black Lives Matter movement going down the street, and you have armed police with everything, and pushing, and spray can, pepper spray, beating, everything, right? But you let everybody just walk right into Capitol Hill, sit anywhere they want to, look through private documents, and president went MIA. Right? Do you think that could have happened with any other race? I'm not specific to saying black. I'm not specific. Any other race. You think that could have happened? But it was a directed narrative. There was he on purpose. I'm not making any accusations. Can't do that. Things happen. You know what? Facebook and everything went down the other day. His Facebook and Twitter could have gone down that night. Who knows? Right? But nothing was done. They just walked right through, right by police. They waved, "Hi, come on in." Right? Like a convenience store. "Hi, come on in." Right? Whatever you want, it's there, right? Anybody else, that would have never happened. Right? But it's for the government as well to say something. Right? The government is allowing these certain actions to happen and allowing people to say, "We have you. We can do whatever we want." Right? But it's the people who voted them in. Right? So if we hold our government officials accountable, right, and put people in power who are actually willing to have those conversations, actually willing to make change, we can actually start getting to that 50-50 mark on eliminating it. Till then,
we're gonna need 50% at least. 50. It goes back to the individuals, right? Individuals, clarity of mind, saying something's not right here. We don't hold. It's difficult to hold people accountable if we don't have clarity of mind, right? So and I think we're talking about how it starts with children. Well, when we send children to school, they're being conditioned. You need to sit when I tell you to sit, go outside when I tell you to go outside, come back in when I tell you to come back in, eat when I tell you to eat, go home when we tell you to go home. So it's the conditioning of the mind, which is why I love working with children, because my goals and my intention is to empower them. You have a question, ask the question without fear of being reprimanded, consequence, right? And so what we have is children who are conditioned not to think. Is that thinking again? And what happened to children? Children just grow up, and now they're adults who can't think. I work in all of my classrooms. Whenever I say to my students, "This is the activity. Here are your basic instructions, and be creative." And they're like, "No, miss. What do you want us to do? These are the pillars that you need to hit. How you choose to hit them is up to you. I just want you to tell me what to do. I want you to think about it." And so many of my students flounder because they're like, "I just need you to tell me where to go, what to do, and how to get there." Where did that thought come from? That comes from being children in school, being told where to go, what to do, how to think, right? We don't teach children how to think. We teach them what to think. And that's problematic, because now we're saying, what do we do here? We need a new idea. Do you have a new idea? I don't have an idea. They told me what to do all along. Do you have a new idea? I don't have a new idea. I've been told what to do all along. They tell us to walk, and we walk. They tell us to jump, we say how high. And that's not the case for everyone. And that's thankfully so. We just need to get more people together, facing their fears, saying, what do we have to do here? Who has a new thought? How do you get new thoughts? You get rid of the fog inside of your brain. I just feel like a broken record here. You have to clear out the brain so that you can form new thoughts. Because what we're asking for is, well, we don't like racism. We need a new thing here. And while the answer is pretty easy, it's the how do we get to that? That's difficult for people. And that's why children are so, it's so brilliant, because children don't have the fog in their head yet, right? Especially the younger they are, they haven't been exposed to too much. Just the 3 years or 4 years of being at home, which is whatever it is. But when you ask them simple questions, or not even simple questions, you ask them complex questions. How do we solve world hunger? That's easy. Just feed people. How do we solve world homelessness? That's easy. Just give people homes, right? And so if children can give you those very basic answers, then why do we have these people at the top having a hard time making that happen? Just build more homes. Just make sure that everyone has enough food. And it comes back, I think, to clarity of thought. And then what does it mean to do that? And that goes back to capitalism. I have all the money. You mean I have to share this with people? Well, you can't take it with you. Take it with you.
That's interesting. Well, we're wrapping up our conversation today, and we're maybe posing one more question to you both before we go. But it's almost like an incomplete puzzle, really. If you have those components missing, how can we as a society be richer, and progressive if we have a piece of the puzzle missing? That's kind of what I often think of geese, because geese will stay behind actually and support someone who's been injured or needing that extra boost, right? And why can't we as citizens, as human beings, have that in the core of who we are in our society, right? In order for our society to be rich and progressive. I guess maybe words of wisdom. I know you'll be joining us tomorrow for our panel. We'll open up the conversation to other professionals like yourselves who will also engage on our conversation. I wondered if you have any, Anatole, words of wisdom. Wisdom being advice for artists, and looking to be inclusive and mindful and accountable.
Be open to everything. That is the simplest thing I could tell anybody, any artist, is be open to anything. If you look at anything specifically, let's go music wise, right? Every genre is derived from another genre. There is hip hop has different parts of the instrumentals, different samples from rock songs, completely different end of the spectrum, right? Then you have hip hop songs that have different parts from a reggae song, right? You have these little instrumentals, and you have different artists who put all of it together, right? Just be open, keep your mind open, because the more you do that, the more you're able to absorb, and the more you could push forward. You're not just bringing yourself forward, you're bringing everybody from behind, everybody else forward. You're helping all the artists that have died or fought for certain rights. You're bringing their work forward. You know what I mean? So the more you actually sit there and just be open to everything, right? It opens doors. It opens so many doors.
I want to tell everybody who don't know about Anatole. One time I heard he was playing the Bollywood music. And first he played reggae, hip hop, then he played Bollywood, and everybody was dancing there on a Bollywood music.
Nice. So it's stepping outside the box and allowing yourself to be vulnerable as well.
Yeah.
And I asked him how he said the music have no language. Music is the music. So I don't understand. Like he said, he don't understand the words
At all.
But the music, beats are good. I'm putting it up. Everybody's dancing. That's all it takes.
That's it.
And if I can piggyback onto that, not only should we be open, I think that was the first thing that came into my mind is being open, but then noticing what comes up for you when you are engaging with different people. So you hear a song and you're open to hearing the song, and then notice that, I feel a particular way, right? Or if you're open and you engage with different people, and you notice that you're getting upset, or you notice that you're getting scared, or you notice that you're getting sad, notice the feelings that come up. And then you get to, maybe not in that particular moment, unless this is your person, but notice what comes up for you. And then Go find a person, a place, and a space, and then explore those feelings. Have those feelings. Because if anger is what comes up, you told me to be open and go talk to Anatole, and I talked to him, and by the end of the conversation, I was really mad. Okay, notice that, and then go to a place and a space and a person, have those feelings, and now the feelings are out. You can go back and have another conversation with Anatole and not be angry anymore because you were able to express it. If I talk to someone or I engage with someone, you told me to be open, I'm here, I'm open, and now I'm noticing that I'm feeling really sad. Okay, notice that and take it to a place, a space, and a person, explore those feelings, get them out, right? Clear it out. And then when you go back, it's a different experience. I can engage with you because I didn't swallow, I didn't suppress, I didn't repress that feeling inside of me, and I can engage with you differently because I can think differently. So yes, absolutely, be open and notice what goes on for you on the inside, because it's the feelings that if we don't have them, they stay inside of our bodies. This is trauma, folks. That's what we're talking about here. And it fogs up our brain. And if we can't think, then I can make the decision, oh, if Anatole makes me angry, well, then I can hit him. Or I can go over here where someone's not going to judge me for my anger. Maybe I can go to the gym and I can punch a punching bag. That's okay. That's releasing. And then when I'm done, I have clarity of mind. What was that? What made me so upset? Or that was really silly, or I can't believe and then you can go back and engage again. But you're not making decisions based on the feelings because you had them. Be open, notice your feelings, express the feelings, and then you can think clearly. And the thoughts are good thoughts.
Sometimes it's just not, and sometimes it's just not bad to agree to disagree. Right? Like at the core of it, sometimes even after having all those feelings, you're just, you know what?
But that's a good decision. That's a good decision, right? It's a good decision to agree to disagree sometimes, and that comes after having the feelings.
Those feelings, yeah.
Love it.
That's beautifully said. Sunil, did you want to add in before we wrap up the final comments?
No, I think I learned a lot of things today also. It's a process. We all are learning, but as long as we learning, that matters, right? we have to learn, right? So that's a good thing. Thank you guys, from my side.
Thank you so much. And as Sunil said, we're learning, and I'm richer for this experience with you today. I'm so fortunate to have you both here and a part of the conversation. Thank you very, very much, Anatole and Lonnie. And I look forward to joining you tomorrow in the conversation where we're going to explore the cloudiness of what really biases and stereotypes are and how we can get some clarity around that and exploring it a little deeper beyond today. Again, thank you to Moksha Canada Foundation and Sunil Channon, our founder, and Afro-Caribbean Cultural Festival. We're on day 1 of our panel discussion. We'll be seeing you tomorrow for day 2. Let's engage and connect and explore our communities. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Follow us on social media.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye, everyone.